Magmax brings to the Famicom a publisher I have an odd fondness for. They go by two names. Nihon Busan is the parent company, and Nichibutsu is the video game division. I'm used to seeing Nichibutsu on the credit screens of their arcade games, so that's what I'm going to use. They're never a top-tier developer. What they do is they create some quirky games that aren't quite there, but are still kind of interesting, and then eventually retreat to concentrate on mahjong, horse racing, and F1 racing. One of the quirkiest things is that they number all of their carts. They're not the only Famicom publisher to do that, of course, but they're the only ones to really continue it past the Famicom. Unfortunately, Magmax is not an auspicious debut for Nichibutsu. It's a port of their arcade game, and as far as I can tell, that wasn't a very popular arcade game to begin with. The big innovation that Magmax brings is that their spaceship does not turn into a giant robot. Instead, it combines with other things to turn into a giant robot. I actually feel like this is kind of old-fashioned at the point it came out. Combining your pieces together to make a giant robot is late 70s. Kids in 1986 were all about robots turning into things. You're piloting this core hovercraft vehicle, and you combine with the head and the feet. If the head is attached, you can also pick up a giant gun for the robot. When you get hit, you only lose part of the robot. There's two different modes in Magmax, a surface isometric mode and an underground side-scrolling mode. The thing about the isometric mode is you only get hit when a bullet passes through your shadow, so it'll always be your lower body that takes the hit. In the side view mode, you can get your head or your legs shot off. You transition between these areas through these holes. There's supposed to be 4 regions that you can travel through, each with a unique surface and underground area. Except, in the first 2 zones, the underground area is exactly the same. So it winds up actually being 7 areas. The boss appears after 2 zones. He's not too difficult to take out. And he's generous enough to flash as he's dying. If you do get killed after him, you'll go back to a point before him. But he's so easy to take out it feels like it's just extra points. There are environmental hazards that you can shoot into enemies. Underground, you can shoot out these stalagmites and have them drop down and hit people. And on the surface, you can shoot these bombs. They'll explode into shrapnel that can take out any target. Some objects that appear can't be destroyed with the regular gun. You'll commonly see it with bunkers on the surface. You have to use the big gun to take those out. And sometimes when you destroy an object, this atom will appear. Shooting it a few times will break it and kill all the enemies on the screen. There aren't a lot in the way of stage hazards, just this volcano, and there's these currents in the ocean that will stun you for a few moments. One of the big challenges in Magmax is that as you power up, you also become easier to hit. You move extremely slow in this game, so being the big robot in the side-scrolling view means you'll be running into bullets a lot. On the other hand, the power-ups aren't really distributed well. They're not randomly placed, they're just set up weirdly. Sometimes you'll get all 3 power-ups in the space of a second. Sometimes you get the same ones repeatedly, a short distance apart. Sometimes there's no power-up for almost the entire region. Sometimes a part doesn't appear at all in the first 2 regions. The game loops after the mechanical zone, but it doesn't really get a whole lot of new enemies. So it winds up feeling pretty much the same afterwards. And Magmax is pretty easy. I played 2 rounds of the game while I was getting this video. Each time I played for over 25 minutes. So this is a pretty slow, clunky shooter. You don't really feel super powered when you're the big robot, especially since your shots have a bad tendency to go around people. The coolest thing in the game is the 3-headed dragon boss, and even it isn't that impressive. There's a good reason that Magmax has been pretty much forgotten. Nobody needs to go back and revisit this one.